All right, so next up, last Thursday night, Baker Mayfield made his LA Rams debut after being claimed off waivers from the LA from the Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry, to the LA Rams. Um, and he played in his first Rams game against the Raiders. Nick, how do you think he did?
I think he surprised everybody that watched the game, everybody that knows football. I mean, the reaction off of social media from other NFL players was like nobody could believe what he did because you you mentioned that the Rams had just claimed him off of waivers, but what you didn't mention was Baker Mayfield was barely on the Rams for 48 hours before playing in that Thursday night game against the Raiders. The Raiders were coming off three straight wins. They were looking better. They were 5-7. They were getting back into the playoff hunt. Baker Mayfield, I think, had only taken 20 to 40 walkthrough snaps with the Rams on Wednesday before playing in that Thursday game. And then the Rams are down 16-3 headed into that final quarter. And then out of nowhere, here comes Baker leading the Los Angeles Rams, who have lost six straight games. They had lost every single game since their bye week in week 7, I want to say it was. And he leads them to a comeback victory, including a 98-yard game-winning drive, which was the longest game-winning drive that the NFL had seen for decades. Baker Mayfield did that in his Rams debut in Hollywood, in SoFi Stadium, under the bright lights of Thursday Night Football, with not even barely 48 hours to prepare for that. He didn't know that offense, and he did that anyways. That was amazing.
Yeah, and I think the best part about it was the 98 yard game-winning touchdown drive, like you mentioned. So finally, what I got for you, just a question. His debut, was it good or bad?
I don't think anything about it was bad. I think it was all good. I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone really had any expectations for him going in that game because he had just been signed by the Rams. And even up until kickoff, nobody really knew exactly who was going to be the starter for the Rams. Was it going to be Baker Mayfield? Was it going to be John Wolford? Both quarterbacks had taken snaps with the starting offensive line during pregame. John Wolford ended up starting the game, but he had to leave the game because he was dealing with a neck injury going into that game. So Baker Mayfield took over from there. And then Baker Mayfield's just throwing passes left and right, like he's been with this team all year, and that like it was like he knew all these receivers and everything. But I guarantee you, he didn't know the entire offense. He didn't know the names of the entire offense, and he was throwing to them, and it just looked like he had been there all season. It was the most amazing thing I've probably ever seen. And just this morning, we woke up to the news that Baker Mayfield was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. NFC
Yeah.
Offensive Player of the Week after just getting claimed by the Rams. So it was amazing, but it is only one game, and we'll see what the Rams do on Monday Night Football against the Packers, and then they play on Christmas, and then potentially Sunday night against the Chargers. So Baker Mayfield will have plenty of games in the spotlight on prime time to prove that maybe he can be a starter moving forward.
Yeah, so I guess my next question is, how do you think Baker Mayfield will play the rest of the season?
I don't. Well, I don't think anyone is maybe in NFL history is ever going to repeat what Baker did, considering the circumstances of his first game with the
Mhm.
Rams. Um, I mean, I guess there's really only room for improvement. Look, I'm not a big Baker fan at all. I'm very, very low on Baker, and my thing is, it's just one game. But if he can look even serviceable at best in the next 3 games on prime time, and there's Rams. Everyone only has 4 games left. If you can look at least serviceable, I think he's got a chance to at least be the Rams' backup quarterback and potentially the starter next year because not everyone knows what's going to happen with Matthew Stafford. He's like 34 or 35 years old. And the Rams are saying it's a spine contusion injury, which look, it might be, but like in the game of football, especially with Matthew Stafford and all the hits he's taken throughout his career, it's like you don't know how somebody's going to come back from a spine injury. And in the sport of football, of all sports, I wouldn't really even want to try to have him come back. I would just
Mm.
say, you know what? Stafford. We brought you in to win a ring. You won a ring with us in your first year here. You've done everything you wanted to do in your career. It's time to retire and
Yeah.
potentially hand the reins over to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Yeah, it's time for him to retire, I think.